A lot of lives just gone right down the tubes because of me. In one way or another. And it's not a good feeling. It's not a pleasant feeling. I'm not proud of anything I've done. And the worst thing is I don't understand why.
Lisa McVey Noland is an American police officer, school resource officer, and motivational speaker. However, before all of these, she was first a survivor. A survivor of a very horrifying past from when she was a teen. At the age of 17, Lisa was abducted by a serial killer and rapist, Bobby Joe Long. Fortunately, she made it out alive and was even said to have provided the information that led to the capture of the serial killer rapist. Like me, I know you're wondering, what really went down all those years ago? Well, you're about to find out. My name is Zach, and you are watching Crime Origin. Lisa McVey Noland. Lisa was born in March of 1967 in Tampa, Florida. As a child, her parents were not the best or a tad bit decent when it came to parenting. There was no mention of her dad, so it is safe to say that she grew up under her mom's care, or maybe not. From the tender age of 2, Lisa had begun to go through abuse. Her mom was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and this led to Lisa being taken from her care to be placed in the foster care system. From this, only one can easily deduce that Lisa's childhood also lacked some stability, because after this incident, the young girl continued bouncing from one home to the other until she turned 14 and was taken to her grandmother's house. On the outside, this might have looked like the next best thing, but there was a problem. Lisa didn't know her grandmother up until that time. Secondly, her grandmother had a boyfriend who, for 3 years, sexually and emotionally abused the teenager. As a matter of fact, there were also instances where he had a gun to her head while he took advantage of her. Lisa continued to live with her grandmother in a house just across the street from the Tampa Catholic High School. And by the time she turned 17, she had begun working at the Krispy Kreme donut shop at Waters and Florida Avenue. The hard-working teenager often rode her bicycle to and from the donut shop, so it is safe to say that when Lisa wasn't in school, she would most definitely be at work, and vice versa. On November 3rd, 1984, things took a turn for the worst. Lisa had been working a double shift at the donut shop, something she hadn't done before. By the time her shift ended, it was around 2 a.m. the following day. She closed up the shop and, as she usually did, got on her bicycle and headed for her house, which was said to have been about 8 minutes from where she worked. Although Lisa left the donut shop for her house, she never got home. Her bicycle was found lying on the ground, halfway to her home, with her belongings, which included her purse and a bunch of donuts, scattered on the ground. The owner of the aforementioned was identified as Lisa Rhodes. It turned out that since she was living with her grandmother and her grandmother's boyfriend, Lisa was forced to change her last name from McVey to Rhodes. Plus, she was forced to address her grandmother's boyfriend as her dad in public. Shortly after the discovery, the authorities declared Lisa missing and began to carry out a thorough search. The news of Lisa's disappearance was also broadcasted via the media, with the authorities asking for help, but sadly, they got nothing. The police searched and searched, but no one noticed anything out of the ordinary. However, 2 days later, Lisa walked back to her grandmother's house like she hadn't gone missing days prior. She explained to her grandmother that she had been kidnapped but wasn't taken very seriously. Her grandmother's boyfriend also had her beaten up for several hours for no reason. Eventually, her grandmother decided to call the police so Lisa could tell them what had happened to her. Immediately, the police took her into custody, where she narrated everything that transpired in detail. Lisa's testimony. Lisa told the police that on the day that she was kidnapped, her boss had offered her a chance to work a double shift. And although she hadn't worked a double shift before, she wanted to because she was trying to put off something she planned to do as soon as she got home. Lisa called her grandmother, asking her if she could work a double shift, and the older woman affirmed that she could. As it turned out, Lisa had planned to take her life that night. She told the police that she had already written a suicide note and that she only had to get home to finish the act, but ended up getting kidnapped instead. The teenager said that she had been riding her bike home, and as she drove past the church, she saw a car parked in the parking lot of the church. She thought it was strange because it was too late to have a car sitting in a parking lot. It was in the middle of the night. According to Lisa's report, it was a maroon car, and the rear tire of the driver's side was reversed. As she looked back to get a closer look at the vehicle, an unsuspecting Lisa was knocked off her bicycle, and after feeling a gun on her left temple along with a click, she knew she was in danger. Suddenly, the young girl began to scream while her abductor dragged her into his car, also cursing and yelling back at her. In the car, he told Lisa to strip and perform a sexual act on him, which erupted another scream from the teen. According to Lisa, she spotted a huge hunting knife in the car, so when he told her that he would kill her unless she showed him a good time, she obliged. She said that her abductor pulled her hair, tied her up using bedsheets, and also blindfolded her. At this point, Lisa was enraged because she felt that no human being had the right to take the life of another person. She then decided that she was going to do all that she could to survive. Looking at her background, it was not surprising that she knew exactly what to do to survive. Also, Lisa said that she loved watching crime shows, so she knew that she had to pick up clues and remember details if she wanted her abductor to get caught eventually. While he was blindfolding her, she made her face bigger so that he put on the blindfold. It loosened up a little bit because she relaxed her face. Her abductor had no idea, but Lisa said she could see from the blindfold after that. She began to look around and noticed that they were heading north on Rome Street to the interstate. Lisa told the police that the car sounded like it was overdue for a visit to the mechanic. She said that it was knocking and that inside there was a green light on the dashboard, a leather steering wheel, and the word Magnum. Underneath her was a thick red carpet which stood out because it wasn't the regular car carpet. Lisa said she left a tampon in the car since she was on her period at the time. In doing so, she was leaving evidence just in case she was never found. She said that she later felt the car drive off the interstate and continue moving around for about 15 minutes until it stopped. This time, when Lisa tried to get a look at her surroundings, she spotted the woods in front of her. Her abductor then told her to get dressed and get out of the car, which she did. She began heading for the woods, but was yelled out that she was going the wrong way. Her abductor then grabbed and pulled her in the other direction, leading her to a building, then a door. He proceeded to open the door, and Lisa noticed that he was a left-handed Caucasian. He led her to the bathroom, took off her blindfold, told her to strip, and began to bathe her. Summoning up the courage, Lisa asked him why he was doing this to her. He responded by saying that he did it to women in general and that he had been through a bad breakup. At this point, Lisa understood his motive and figured that if she played her cards right, she could get out alive. For the next 26 hours, Lisa's abductor raped her repeatedly. The next night, while the pair were watching the TV together, which is rather unusual in itself, news about Lisa's disappearance came up. Upon realizing that her abduction had been real, Lisa began to cry while her abductor pointed a gun to her head, shouting at her to shut up. Realizing once again that her life was at risk and that she may not make it out alive, Lisa decided to get her act together. She stopped crying and asked to be allowed to go to the bathroom. After obtaining permission, she shut the door of the bathroom behind her and began to leave her fingerprints on everything she could find, so that if investigators ever got there, they would know that she had been there. Later that night, she was raped again, and her abductor slept next to her afterward. At about 4 a.m. the next morning, he woke up and began pacing around, asking her what he was going to do with her. Lisa decided to play mind tricks on him to get him to relax. She told him that she wanted to be his girlfriend and that it was unfortunate how they met, but nobody had to know. She told him that she understood he was only trying to get back at his ex-girlfriend, but that she would take care of him. At this point, he began mumbling and minutes later told Lisa to get dressed and get into the car. Lisa was scared that he was going to kill her, but he asked for her home address instead. They stopped at a gas station and a bank before getting to the intersection. Lisa had described that she wanted to be dropped there. Initially, he drove past the intersection, shouting at Lisa that she had lied to him. However, she calmly asked him where they were and gave him directions to the intersection. Luckily, he drove back there, hugged her, and apologized before going around to let her out of the car. He told her to wait for 5 minutes before she left and then sped off. Lisa took off her blindfold and began to run because she suspected that he could come back for her. Luckily for her, she was able to get to her grandmother's house before anything of that sort happened. The investigation. After narrating all these to the police, they brought in a sketch artist so Lisa could give the descriptions she remembered about the man. They also took her clothes for some testing and put a search out for a red Dodge Magnum. It turned out that the authorities weren't only looking for an abductor, but a serial killer as well. Lisa was at home one day after a series of meetings with the authorities when she saw on the news that a girl's body was found somewhere. Immediately, the smart young woman reached out to the police, telling them that she had a feeling her abductor had killed the girl. Investigators began to put two and two together and figured that Lisa had also disappeared around the time where there was a pattern of females missing in Tampa. It was said to have started in March that year, and Lisa happened to be the 9th out of 10 and the only surviving victim. A series of reasons, including the red fiber from the red carpet found on some of the victims, and also on Lisa's clothes, led to police to believe that they were after a serial killer. The police also checked the bank records of the bank Lisa had mentioned they stopped by on the day of her release. They discovered that one man fit clearly into the description, and his name was Bobby Joe Long. The police decided to investigate Bobby's past and found even more incriminating information. While the police were on the lookout for his car, an officer saw him on the road and pulled him over, telling him that there had been a robbery and that a car similar to his had been at the scene, so they needed to take a photo of him for record's sake. His photo was added to the lineup of photos the police had, and Lisa was called in to identify her abductor. She pointed at the photo of Bobby Joe Long, and the police were immediately issued a search warrant to search his home. They found Lisa's fingerprints all over the bathroom, along with the red carpet in his car. On November 16, 1984, Bobby Joe Long was arrested in front of a movie theater. He was brought in for investigation of Lisa's case, which he confessed to. When asked about the murders, he said that he had no answers.
A lot of lives just gone right down the tubes because of me. In one way or another. And it's not a good feeling. It's not a pleasant feeling. I'm not proud of anything I've done. And the worst thing is I don't understand why.
Eventually, however, he confessed to all 9 murders and over 50 rapes across the state of Florida. During his holding in jail, his cellmate sent a letter of his to a private investigator. In that letter, Bobby had stated that he had plotted to kill a girl and then kill himself after he got out of jail. He was then taken to trial, where he pled guilty and was given 26 sentences without the possibility of parole, 7 life sentences, and a death sentence. On May 23, 2019, he was executed by lethal injection.
One of Tampa Bay's worst serial killers has paid with his life. Bobby Joe Long, who murdered 8 women in 1984, was executed tonight at the Florida State Prison. He was pronounced dead at 6:55 p.m.
You witnessed the execution today. What was your reaction?
My reaction was relief. All the years I have fought and the families of the victims fought to get the death warrant signed. It's surreal. The day came. It's here. I really honestly didn't think it would ever happen.
What was going through your mind when you were watching the execution?
What was going through my mind is, when is he going to stop breathing? I mean, I hate to say that, but when is the blanket on him going to stop rising and falling on his chest? That's what was going through my mind.
If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment your take down below, and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case.